Welcome to Unlocking Real Estate My First Commission, where we dive into real stories, big wins, and early lessons learned from highly successful rookie real estate agents and brokers. This is the series where we explore how real estate transforms lives, one home at a time, by sitting down each week with a new agent or broker who has found incredible success in their first year. Your hosts are instructors and leaders at Colibri Real Estate School, one of the largest real estate educators in the nation, where we focus on helping people like you get started or find continued success in their careers.
So we're here for another episode of My First Commission here in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we have an amazing episode today. We're sat here with Derek Tschilar. He was the 2023 Rookie of the Year for the Arizona School of Real Estate, one of our sister schools, a local school in Arizona. Derek had a breakout year with over 20 transactions equaling just over $7.2 million. An amazing feat for his first year. So Derek, how did I do? Did I nail the introduction?
Yeah.
Yeah? I didn't miss anything?
No.
No, perfect. So Derek, what I want to talk to you about is your experience before transitioning into real estate, right? You were working in the automotive industry, you were doing sales. What prompted you to go one day, I want to get into real estate?
I wanted to be in real estate for a majority of my car sales career. It took me a long time to get licensed, admittedly. So I started in car sales and, I hated it at first. They say that your first 3 months of car sales are the worst. And if you can get past that, you'll have a good chance at making it. So, the first 2 years of my car sales journey were pretty rough, but after that, I started to read some sales books and I started to self-motivate a little bit, which is what's required to be successful in the automotive industry. Is you got to be a go-getter. You got to, motivate yourself. And so once I started to, make some good commissions and see that you can make a real career out of selling cars, I wanted to take that sales approach and start a career in real estate.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier on before we jumped on the podcast. You were running the e-commerce leads.
Yeah, so I worked in the back and I would take all the inbound calls and any lead that would come in on our website that was browsing a car, I would set an appointment with them. And so it's pretty nice because I knew exactly who I was going to meet at what time and what car they were interested in. And I'd also have some, vehicles lined up for them in case that one didn't work. So I was kind of like an appointment-based salesman as opposed to just greeting someone when they had walked in, although I did help those people as well. So it was pretty nice and gave me a lot of phone experience, years of sales experience on the phone, which contributed to some of my success here in real estate.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But kind of you're behind the scenes at the car dealership, right? What took you so long to finally give that up and go, I've got to start selling houses? Like, what was the point where you were like, right, I'm signing up for a real estate school?
So I was in real estate school for like 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So how this came about, first of all, I don't know if you know anything about a car dealership, you're working 12 hours a day sometimes if you want to be one of the top salesmen, right? If you want to get a good commission check at the end of the month. So it was kind of this vicious cycle of me, going down this rabbit hole of studying and then kind of having a really good month in car sales, not really spending much time studying, and just this vicious cycle of not really having the time, to study, which I know is an excuse, but you have to contribute so much of your time towards, performing at the dealership to get the results that you want. So eventually I just said, I've been in the real estate school for over 2 years. It's time to just quit and study full time and get my license.
Oh, wow. So
because I pretty much hit a wall. I'm like, okay, I'm not getting any younger. Nothing's going to change if I don't make a change. So I had to make the really tough decision to just actually walk away from the car dealership completely and just put my head down and study. And, I was going like 2 months without a paycheck. So I had to really put my head down and get licensed like as soon as possible. And actually I had joined a real estate team at the time that was working with investors that you actually weren't required to be licensed to work with the investors. So I was starting to get some experience under my belt while I was in the process of getting licensed. And eventually got licensed at the end of 2022.
Cool. Yeah. And you did your schooling online, correct?
I did.
Yeah.
I did the go at your own PACE model, the online school with all the modules. And so it was great because had they not had that option, I don't know where I would be right now.
Yeah. I mean, well, we see this a lot when people are trying to transition from one career into another. They take the online course to kind of fit around their schedule. But sounds like you had to make that distinction. And right, this will be my full-time job. I'm going to study full-time because Arizona's 90 hours, I think.
90 hours.
Yeah, to get your real estate license. So you had to knuckle down and get it done. Tell us a bit about kind of the online schooling and why it kind of worked with your learning style.
It worked with me because my hours and my schedule was so spotty, and I would work long hours at the car dealership. So, I'd come home late sometimes, but I was still able to just pop up, maybe do like a course or two, get that knocked out. So it was really nice because it was going your own pace as opposed to being obligated to maybe like show up for a class at this like designated time. So just being able to be really flexible with my schedule helped me out a lot personally.
For sure. And then you picked the Arizona School of Real Estate and Business, ASREB as it's known. Why did you pick this school out of all the other online schools that you could take it with?
I got referred to ASREB from my sister's husband, my brother-in-law. He was actually in the school at the time. He ended up being a pilot, so he actually didn't pursue real estate. He ended up finding his career, flying planes.
Yeah.
But
that's a big change.
That's a big change. So real estate wasn't for him, but everything happens for a reason. So he gave me his book, and I started to read it, but his was actually a little outdated at the time, and so I had to I joined the school, got the book, got my online courses, and just tried to start knocking out as much as I can. It was just super tough to manage that and juggle that with the schedule I had, selling cars. So I just realized, it's time to just quit and pursue real estate full time, licensed or not.
Yeah, no, we definitely see that a lot where people kind of fail the school exam or the state exam, and they're like, I've got to really, really knuckle down to it. So you pass your license at the back end of 2022, you start producing in 2023, and you have this amazing year, right? You win multiple awards. You sell over $7 million in real estate in your first year, which is a really good feat. Talk me through kind of your first deal. How did you go and land your very first home?
Yeah, so I was on a pretty big team at the time, and we were working a lot of sellers because at that time it was a complete seller's market. It was super difficult to work with buyers. Not that we didn't want to help them. It was just there was a lot more opportunity with sellers and listings. I went on Zillow.com, and I was actually calling the for sale by owners. And, they get pretty upset when you call them. They don't want to talk to an agent. They're trying to do for sale by owner for a reason. But I did come across this guy that listened to what I had to say. And at that time, I was working with a hedge fund that was actually buying a lot of homes, single family homes in Phoenix. And so I just told him, hey, you know what? Let me come give you a non-obligatory offer. And I'd love to meet you. I'd love to see the property. Well, so I go meet him that same day. And sure enough, the offer came back. He was pleasantly surprised, and he didn't have to list it on the market. So ended up being my first transaction. It was pretty simple.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've taken some of your experience in the car dealership, right? Just go in, finding a little way to hack around the system, get on the phone and start calling. Were there a lot of other people doing that strategy, or was that kind of you, the black sheep of the brokerage you were at?
So it is a common strategy to go on Zillow and to try to talk to for sale by owners to get them to list with you and to earn their business. But I would say that a small majority of real estate professionals do prefer the method of calling, whether that's cold calling, calling pay-per-click leads. Usually people prefer to do open houses, or they're more referral based. At the time, being a newer agent, I wasn't getting a lot of referrals. It's one of the pain points you're going to go through when you're a brand new agent, just because it's such a large transaction. People aren't usually going to hire a brand new agent, right? They want someone seasoned. They want someone that knows what they're doing, that's confident, that's going to get the job done. And so at the time, I realized that I could create a lot more value by calling as many people as possible, getting in front of them. And so I had to go through tons of failure of rejection because I was a newer agent, but I did stumble across, some people that did give me a good opportunity, and they ended up having a great experience with me. I was able to perform for them at a high level. And so then once I started to get those transactions under my belt, then it kind of became a compound effect. I was able to show other clients, hey, I sold this property, I sold that property. And it's just kind of a compound effect in real estate. The more you sell, the more clients you're going to get because they can see your transactions. It's public record. And, you're going to get more referrals that way, especially if you give them a good experience.
Yeah. So a lot of your early transactions were from cold calling and
All of them.
every single one?
Every single one of them, because it's a free marketing strategy. I didn't have a dollar to my name. I was a 6-figure sales professional in car sales. I underestimated the time it would take to get commissions in real estate because it's slow money. It's a long process. It takes several months to buy a home for a lot of people. And so I was used to quick money, and I didn't go completely broke, but I definitely wasn't making the money that I was used to. So I didn't have any money to invest into like pay-per-click marketing, which as a newer agent, I had not even thought about. I just went on YouTube and I just simply typed in, how do you sell houses? I came across cold calling. And so I just kind of went down that journey of, cold calling homeowners and just asking if they had any thought about selling. And so sure enough, I went on hundreds of appointments, meeting with people. Keep in mind, I'm a new agent. I don't know what I'm doing or, saying, or, I don't have much to offer them as a newer agent. So a lot of these people turn me down, but then it was a numbers game. So even let's say I met with like 50 people, if I got 5 new clients from that, well, then it was worth it.
Yeah. So you're really taking that kind of sales mindset across from one industry into another, right? You just said it's a numbers game. You see that a lot on like TikTok when you have like these high performing salespeople. When you were kind of transitioning, were there any big skills that you think that you had that would go, right, well, if I'm starting real estate, like this is why I'm going to be successful from your previous life?
I believe just, working at the car dealership as many hours as I put into that, as much effort as I put into that, I know that if I would just keep, if I just worked that many hours and contributed that much effort into real estate, that eventually, I would get it down. And, I've correctly estimated that that was the effort needed. So, from day one, I put a lot of effort into my business. And, it took a long time to build up, but it was well worth it. And those skills that I learned early on, I now have as a backbone and foundation of my business to rely on to always procure new business and I never have to go months or, I never have to think or worry about where's my next client going to come from? Where's my next transaction going to come from? I always have an extremely full pipeline, and, I have too many clients, which is a great problem to have.
Yeah. Cause right now you're operating kind of solo. Right.
Yes. Yeah,
so you're an independent agent. So kind of talk through to someone that's watching this, that's thinking about getting their license. Like, what does that actually mean, and kind of how does that affect your day to day?
Yeah, absolutely. Any advice I can give to a newer agent, don't think like a real estate agent, think like a business owner, right? So from day one, you're going to be operating a business, and I would highly advise for someone to actually start real estate. And I know this isn't going to be a popular opinion. This is going to be a very unpopular opinion, but start day one as an independent agent and go through the pain points of becoming a solo business owner so that you can take those failures and you can strengthen your weaknesses. I think that's extremely important. If you're relying on a team, if you're relying on other people, that's not promised tomorrow. They might go out of business tomorrow, and where's that going to leave you? You need to be able to fend for yourself. You need the crucial skills required to become a successful business owner and a multiple 6-figure entrepreneur. It's extremely important to be successful as an entrepreneur.
And was that your mindset from day one, right? When you were getting your license, that was an intentional move, or did it just kind of happen for you?
I was in the wrong settings when I first started real estate. So, and the market was completely different. So I've been in several different markets. And, when I first had started selling real estate, I was working with a hedge fund that would just buy homes cash. And that's not really how real estate is done. It's not realistic. So I thought that's all real estate was. And I never had to learn how to work with a buyer. I never had to learn how to, how to list a home properly to get it sold fast and be able to perform on listings. So I had to completely relearn real estate once the market had shifted and I was no longer able to, and these hedge funds stopped buying. They say, okay, the market's getting soft, we're out. And then you're like, okay, well, what am I going to do? So I had to completely relearn the traditional model of real estate, which is meeting with clients, becoming a professional, learning how to help them and create as much value for them in the sale as possible. And, providing services to them that they would be better off using your services as opposed to just trying to buy or sell that house on their own.
Okay. So that happens, right? The market softens. You have to kind of re-go through it into the traditional route. Do you still take that kind of sales, cold call, numbers game approach into it and just go, I just need to reformat my script, my pitch, my selling points? Like, how did that work out for you?
Yeah. So it came with the mindset of, as in car sales, I was in different markets. And so this is where having prior sales experience was crucial to my success in real estate, or I guess having quicker success, if you want to call it that, is that I thrive in any market, meaning that, okay, if the market gets 20% worse, I'm making 20% more calls. So this is an effort-based business model. So you can always rely on to the brute force of making more effort. And that's not attractive to a lot of people, but that's how business is done. Real estate's all about finding new business every single day. And more importantly, how much value can I create to that client? So it's about creating as much more value in the marketplace as possible. The more value that you create, the more commission and the more revenue that you're going to make. So if I can go help someone at a high level, as a byproduct of helping them at a high level, I'm going to get a commission for that.
Yeah, and you said a second ago, right? You got to treat it as a business, right? You are
absolutely
an entrepreneur. You're a business owner. You're learning the industry yourself, right? You're still fairly new to the industry. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you do it all? How do you hold yourself accountable? How do you talk to yourself and make sure that you're going to hit that production? You're going to go 20% extra because the market's changed.
Absolutely. So I have a great story for you. So 2023, I worked every single day. I didn't take a day off. On Mother's Day, gave my mom a gift, went right to the office. I would even go to the office, even if I didn't, I would get mentally and physically sick going to the office every single day. But I made a promise to myself that's what I was going to do, because I didn't have a plan B. And I was putting so much pressure on myself at this point in my life, because at that point I was 27 and I don't have a college degree. I couldn't go back to car sales. They wouldn't have me back. I didn't want to, come back a failure asking, hey, I couldn't make it in real estate. Will you rehire me? And most importantly, the only people that believed in me were my parents. So I had a lot of people to prove wrong. And I think that also just messed with my brain a lot, but in a positive way. It was like a positive peer pressure to be as successful as possible. So I would go to the office every single day and I'd work as hard as possible in 2023. Ended up working, just with brute force. People thought I did really well in 2023. They don't see all the people I met with that wouldn't hire me. So for every 10 people I would meet with, one would give me their business. So I had a simple business model. Brute force, meet as many people as possible. Eventually I'm going to get good at this and people are going to, be blowing up my phone like they are now, wanting to hire me to list their home or to, show houses. But it's really rough at first. And so people underestimate how much effort it's actually required. And I'm talking about driving, 50 miles in the outer city of Phoenix just for the off chance to maybe meet someone that might want to buy or sell in a few months. So that's, it's a lot of driving. It's a lot of appointments, and it just comes down to pure volume, pure effort, pure brute force. To go back to your question though, and last year, I put a lot of money away from 2023. Well, now I had money to spend on Google ads. And so the cool thing about Google ads is now this is a whole different kind of lead quality. People are coming to you now. So people are going on my website saying, I want to buy or sell a house. So that became my main source of business. But what I didn't realize after 6 months of doing that and getting business from my website and, the pay-per-click, was it actually kind of had made me a little bit lazier than I was in 2023. So last year, I didn't hit my production goals in the way that I wanted to, even though it was my best year. And, I made great revenue. I could have made 3 times that amount of revenue. So I'm still learning, every single day. And from, reverse engineering the year that I had, okay, what can I have done better? Well, it just came back to, I just didn't put enough effort into my business because now stuff is coming to me too easily. So now I had like the hardest year possible of trying to find as many clients as possible, the easiest year possible with, too many clients coming to me. So this year is about combining the two, showing up in the office every single day, treating it as a business like I did in 2023, not working from home, no laziness, no excuses, and just maximizing everything I can at the highest level possible.
That's really interesting. You say that you gave yourself a production goal and you had your best year, and you still weren't happy with it. Like, what's that process look like at the start of the year? Do you write it down in a journal? Do you write it on your wall?
I just have it in my head. Okay. And it's an unrealistic goal, but...
how unrealistic?
It's an unrealistic goal. But it's also, it's also realistic because it's real estate. So, anything can happen. But I'm someone that I read a lot of sales books in car sales, and that's kind of what changed my journey and gave me the positive mindset. Because I used to just go there to collect a check. We actually worked hourly at the car dealership with bonuses, and they switched it to commission only. So I was in for a rude awakening. We stopped getting those hourly checks. I had to learn to actually become a professional salesman. So I read these sales books, and one of the things that I've read is that you always want to set your goals way higher. Don't set your goals low, because you would rather fall short of a massive goal than just barely, accomplishing a mediocre goal. So if my goal is to make $1 million and I make, $800,000, well, I'd rather make $800,000 and have my goal make, $100,000 and then just barely make $100,000. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You'd rather fall short of a massive goal rather than barely accomplishing a mediocre goal. Yeah. So ever since I read that, I've just had these unrealistic goals in my head, but it will always perpetuate you to want to do more and accomplish as much as possible, because you feel like you're failing, and it has this pressure on you to hit that unrealistic goal.
Yeah. When you were talking earlier on about going to the office every day, putting pressure on yourself, it sounded like you put like your own chip on your shoulder kind of thing. That's like, right, I've got to carry this forward. So at the start of the year, you say you want to make $1 million, right? That's just, unless that is the actual goal. Is it the actual goal?
Yeah, the goal is to make $1 million.
Cool. So you make $1 million a year, right? You said you reverse engineer it. So then you go, what's my average commission that I make? And then do you go, right, that means I need to sell 30 homes? And then back into it, I need to make 10,000 calls. Like, is that the process that you go through? Like, the agents are going to be watching this. Like, what's the secret?
Well, one thing I want to add too is that, no matter how many homes you sell, you can't ruin your quality service to the clients. You can't like rush through deals. So I don't want that to ever happen. I always want to give them like the best experience possible. Even if I know I could sell more, I want to make sure that I'm allocating enough time to each deal to get everything done properly. I haven't hit that point yet, but that's just one concern I have of, if I do find a means to, get higher production closer to that number. But shoot, I'm sorry, I forgot your question.
Yeah, no, it's, so you talked about reverse engineering your goals, right? So your goal is to make $1 million this year, right? Do you know how many homes you need to sell? And then from that, how many appointments you need to do? And then how many calls you need to make? Like, is that the playbook?
Absolutely. So it's just about, okay, I need to meet with this many people and get this many deals under contract to accomplish this goal. And I need to charge this much per file, much per deal.
Yeah. So you got it kind of down to a science, right? That traditional sales playbook, if you were working for a SaaS company in Silicon Valley, or you're working for like a HR software, you'd have your quota that you have to hit. Yeah. You put your self-imposed quota on, but you are an independent agent. You don't have a network around you that's kind of helping you, that's talking through it. So like, if someone is watching this and they're inspired by your story, right? You got your own CRM, like to house your leads. And then what are the tools have you added on to make 3 or 4 versions of you that can work while you're sleeping, while you're talking to other agents? Talk to me about your actual network that you've created for yourself.
Right. So these are some of the things I still need to strengthen in my business. So last year, for example, I tried to automate everything, and my operating expenses were just way too high. And so, I was still in the green. I still was profitable, but it just didn't make financial sense to keep some of these systems that were in place. My business last year was running itself. It was all virtual, right? I had a virtual assistant, I had an appointment setter, I had a business operations manager. I did all my paperwork, all that great stuff. But to answer your question, some of the things I guess that you can add into your business to accomplish some of these goals, again, would be time back in your business. It's always it's very simple. It's how many clients can you meet with, and how many clients can you help sell or buy a home. So if you have enough time in your day to get more clients, that's what you need to find, is where you need to audit your time. Okay, where am I spending time where maybe I could have buckled down and gotten maybe 2 more clients a month. Well, that 2 more clients a month, even let's call it a $10,000 commission, you're looking at $240,000 in revenue that you're leaving on the table because you wanted to go home 2 hours early. If you contributed 2 more hours to your business every single day, that could result in procuring 2 more transactions a month. Not that it's all about the transactions, but you gotta really focus on the revenue. And that's one thing I learned in real estate, is you got to really become a business owner, because you have taxes, you have operating expenses, things cost a lot of money, and you're gonna have things that are gonna pop up that you have to have money set aside for. So it's like risk adversement. Yeah,
and like going back to the $10,000 commission, right? If you can add 2 more of those in, it's like, if it costs me $50 to outsource it a month, that makes sense, right? So how did you go about auditing your time? Was that like you just looked at it for a week, a month, like you set time aside? How did you kind of structure the business aspect of it last year?
Well, in my opinion, the number one rule that you want to have is a set amount of hours every single day to procuring new business. And the reason for that is that people will call you. You'll get dragged all over the place in real estate, especially if you're working with a lot of buyers. So you need to have a time set aside for yourself that you can contribute just for finding new clients. And so they call it time blocking. You need to block, and I think the sweet spot is about 4 hours. So if you can get up
4 hours a day,
4 hours a day, if you need to get up early, and this sounds easy, but it's really tough mentally, and you have to be very disciplined to set aside 4 hours a day to procure new business, make calls, get rejected. But this business is all about, facing the rejection, keeping a positive mental attitude, and, keep pushing forward when things don't go your way. And it's a huge mental game. This real estate's all about the mental.
And one of the things we were talking about before we jumped on that I think is really interesting with your story, right, is that you're running your own ads, right? Year one, you didn't have a penny to your name, right? You were cold calling, you brute forced your way through to hit the transactions, you saved money, and now you're generating your own leads. So if someone is watching this, kind of walk us through kind of why did you decide to do that? And then kind of how have you created the system that you've created where it is successfully bringing you consistent leads every single month?
The reason that I started the pay-per-click model is you can cold call listings, you can cold call clients. I actually cold call buyers too, which is actually not a well-known tactic. So I'd actually call people that were renting, and I'd ask when their lease would end, by the way. And I'd say, hey, just so you know, this grant or this program, or I could do this for you, if you're thinking about buying this year. Would you want to sit down, and especially 2 years ago, your rental payment was the mortgage payment. So wouldn't it make a lot more sense to just buy? So I would actually cold call a lot of buyers, which is really not a known tactic. I'm the first person I know of that have actually cold call a lot of buyers. Wow. The traditional model is you're cold calling homeowners to ask them to list their property. I had a lot more luck actually cold calling, working with buyers as well. I worked with a lot of buyers my first year, and that's how I got them. And to answer your question, the reason I went with the pay-per-click model is actually I have the muscle memory from when I was selling cars and kind of how that conversation goes. And so I just knew that I needed additional leads, an additional lead avenue, an additional avenue of obtaining new clients rather than just cold calling, because you'll get very burnt out cold calling, and it's not a obtainable business model. Meaning that, it's just your random. With pay-per-click model, you can reverse engineer the numbers, and if something's working, you could throw fire on it. You could put more money towards that ad. You can reverse engineer the numbers. Okay, we got 50 people that clicked on this ad that requested more information. Out of those 4, they wanted to meet in person, and out of those 4 that met in person, 2 became clients. When you're cold calling, it's just kind of random and all over the place. You could track your calls, but it's a lot more sustainable with the pay-per-click model. And what I encourage people to do is to start out, their first year of cold calling, meeting with as many people as possible, experiencing as much failure as possible, because it actually will change your psychology. It'll change you physically and it'll change your psychology, but you'll be ready for the pay-per-click, because people think pay-per-click, is like cold calling. It's not. It's a much better lead quality. It's people that want to buy or sell. They went on your website for a reason. But from your experience with cold calling, people out of the blue and navigating through those conversations and turning them into clients, you're going to be able to help a lot more people with the pay-per-click model get through those conversations, and it'll be a lot less painful.
And you're running this yourself?
Yes.
So you're creating your own content, right? You've tested several videos. You've found like the recipe that works for you. What was that process for you like? And do you time block it and you dedicate 30 minutes a day, an hour a day? Run me through the day in the life of you on your marketing.
So, full transparency, my schedule and everything's all over the place right now because I have a lot of clients under contract. I wake up one day and I have to unexpectedly, out of the blue, do showings or do this inspection or fix something. But in an ideal setting, and what I'd like to get down this quarter so that I can have a good quarter 3 and quarter 4 is getting back to the basics, right? Getting back to your time blocking your 4 hours, you're calling people, you're tracking, you're following up with leads. My problem right now in my business is I have too many clients. It's a great problem to have, but I don't want to take on too many clients to where now it's running the quality of service. So my goal is to not only improve my quality of service throughout time, but to help as many people as possible. And I'm able to actually do that. The more revenue that you make as a real estate agent that no one talks about, the more you can actually help people. I have more marketing money for your listing. I have more resources for finding you off market properties, for whatever the case might be. Because I could put more money in my business, that's going to help my clients more. So I don't necessarily look at it as a bad thing that I make as much money as possible or as much revenue as possible, because it inadvertently actually helps my clients way more. I can get their listing sold way faster. My listing service, my full listing model, like my premium, is second to none, because I'm running paid ads on detailed buyers that are specifically looking for that floor plan in that neighborhood. And so it's a high cost per lead, but it's when that lead comes through, that's going to result in a showing, which is going to result in a 50% chance on them offering on the house. And there's virtually 1% or less agents out there offer that.
Why? Why is it so
People
few?
don't have the revenue or the means to put money in the risk of that listing not selling. So they don't have the means to put money into the listing to get it sold properly, especially in a market like this where it's softened up and there's a lot of listings. People aren't going to go on Zillow and call you and say, I want to buy your house. Any agent could do that. What I want to ask is, what are they doing as far as marketing that from, like a paid ad structure? Are they running like a paid Facebook ad? Like what are they doing additional on top of the virtual guaranteed? Everyone's virtually guaranteed to put your home on Zillow and Realtor.com. We have a whole website that gets built out on homes sometimes, where there's an AI bot that nurtures and qualifies and sets up showings. So, we have it down to a science, especially with technology changing as fast as it is. There's so much that you could do to help getting a listing sold. It just requires money. And so you gotta sit there and, as a business owner, as an agent, how much money can I allocate into this listing? Is it priced properly? And, if at this point, with the way the market is too, I'll turn down a listing because it's a liability if I know that it's the wrong price. And I just know, you've taken so many listings, you just know exactly how it's going to go. And so, okay, it's overpriced. I'm going to do this person a disservice. They're going to get upset with me. I'm going to want them to, price reduce their listing. That's not doing real estate properly. It's being transparent. Hey, I'm the real estate professional. Here's exactly what your home should sell for. If that doesn't work for you, I totally understand. I wouldn't feel comfortable listing it for higher because it's going to set you up for failure.
Mm-hmm. And you've been selling real estate now for what, 3 years, 4 years?
A little under 3 years, 2.5.
2.5.
July will be 2.5.
Okay, so
yeah,
you're still fairly new, right? And you're having these successes. Have you started branching out into the luxury market, and how did you get into that if you're in there?
I don't go out of my way to get luxury listings maybe as much as some of the other agents. So my model is a lot of resales, and I stack up a lot of resales, get them on their contract at once. If someone, called me today and they're like, hey, I want to list my $3 million house, I'm definitely not saying no.
Yeah.
I just know that there's a lot more time allocated per deal in those, and there's a lot more moving pieces. So instead of slowing down my business, which is already being successful, I don't want to change things up and, cause issues with my business that I'm already running and I know that works, with maybe going after like a high ticket client or a high price point property that could take months at a time away from clients I know I could be helping multiple at a time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think everything through this conversation, if the listeners are watching in, is really clear that you do treat it like a sales business organization. You use the word quarter. I've not heard any real estate agent talking quarters, right? You're talking about quota, and you're talking there about like, I've got my model, right? This may be super sexy and everyone wants it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to turn down a $3 million listing. That would look really good, but actually my core, I just want to put more gasoline on this fire.
Yeah.
This is where I can really expand.
I'm not the agent shooting a video in front of someone else's listing to look cool on Instagram. I'm the agent that's helping shelter people when other agents maybe didn't give them the time of the day because their credit or because it wasn't like a cool situation. I help people anywhere from like $150,000, any price point, but I'm for the people. I take it very serious from that regard too, where I understand that this is a huge move for some people. It's a massive decision. There's a lot of, grim things that come about in real estate, death, divorce, delinquency. So, just taking these situations extremely serious and just letting, your client know that they're in good hands with you and that you take their situation serious means it means the world to them, especially with the stigma people have, with real estate agents. Don't get us wrong. We love our commission. We love, the business and everything, but, it goes hand in hand with helping these people. And really it's an intimate relationship with them. I have a great relationship with all my clients and they know I would do anything for them.
Yeah. And so speaking of that, like what's been the most rewarding deal you've done?
That's a great question. All of them. No, but the most rewarding deal that I have personally done is probably one of my recent ones. I won't say her name, but I helped her sell and then buy in a different part of Phoenix, and I just could tell it was a lot for her going on. She had kids, and there's a lot of moving pieces. So that one was extremely rewarding. Helping my brother buy when he just recently had his first kid last year, my nephew. Oh, wow. They got another one on the way. But helping them was pretty rewarding as well. We sold his house super fast, and just, I haven't been able to work with a lot of family members. I'm out meeting and building new relationships. So I kind of forget sometimes to tap into like my family members and maybe some of the people from like my past business or my sphere of influence, which is important to do also. But I'm so set in my way with, finding new business and meeting new people, building new relationships. I kind of forget to kind of nurture some of the relationships I already have. So that's one of the things that I'm working on improving as well.
Yeah, I think you're the first one that's not kind of come in and said like, hey, I tapped out my sphere, my network straight away. That's what everyone says. Yeah. So I think this will be a really interesting one for a new agent or someone thinking about it. It's like, how can I do something that's not traditional? So you are now coming into your third year, right? What does the next 5 years look like for Derek? Like, what is your plans to kind of take over the Phoenix area? Are you going to expand out of it? Where are we going to see you in a couple of years?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'll probably stay here in Phoenix. They're doing a lot of great developments here, and I just want to prove myself in this business and in this industry and in this market. Eventually, I'll get to the luxury game. That's not going anywhere. But there's a lot of people out there that need my help, and I take this profession extremely serious. I did even before I was licensed, even before I knew the money that it offered. I've always loved real estate, and I put all my time and effort into it. So I think I'll just be doing what I do now, just at a very improved level. I'll be a lot more seasoned agent. I'll be a lot more seasoned by then, and I'll have my mortgage license. I'll be getting into doing the mortgages a little bit too, mostly on like the refinances, and just having it to, even if I don't really like doing loans or anything, just kind of having that to help my clients, so I don't have to go through the middleman to tell them kind of what the rate is that day or anything. Just more to have the expertise on, stay on top of the market and have those systems.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm actually working on that now, getting my mortgage license as well. It's kind of becoming a trend. Not really. It's kind of hard to run two businesses successfully, but they do go hand in hand. Right. And so, they call it a relo, a real estate agent loan officer, a relo. So, yes. But I know this school, they do offer the on-course learning, which is the mortgage side as well. But anyone out there, I definitely would start with the real estate license, because I think you can learn a lot more faster becoming a real estate agent than you could becoming a loan officer.
Yeah. So if someone is watching this right now and they're thinking about getting their license, what would you say to them?
Absolutely. If you have a passion for real estate or sales, get your license right away and just give it your all, and just know that it will take time, but that it will pay off eventually, and it'll totally be worth it. And just give it your all. And if you're not, like, if you're kind of iffy and you don't think you like real estate that much, I wouldn't pursue it, because, it takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication, and you got to put your whole life into it if you want to be successful.
Yeah. And you're definitely doing that, right? One of the things, Derek, that you said earlier on that I didn't kind of chat about, you said earlier on that you had no other options to go back into it, so you had to make it work.
I had to make it work because too many people doubted me. There was literally a bet at the car dealership. I'm happy I can get this on camera so I can call them out. But there's literally a bet against me, cash, that I was lying about going into real estate for some reason, which was odd to me. But just I've always been wired that way, to prove people wrong. I don't know why that is, but I know everyone's that way. When someone doubts you, you just kind of want to, accomplish that thing that they said you couldn't do that much more. And so that's pretty much what happened with
You
me,
had a
with a lot of people.
on yourself. Did you at least get the money if they paid you up for actually smashing it and getting your license?
Oh, the bet was behind my back with another person, so I wasn't even supposed to know about it. My buddy told me.
Yeah.
But people get stuck in their ways, and so that's one thing too, I guess, to help encourage people is don't have limiting beliefs. Know that there are careers like this out there. If you're willing to do whatever it takes and put your all into it, you can have a great career, make something out of yourself. Because I worked at a dealership for years, so people kind of just got used to me being like the car guy, and they kind of see you in a certain light. So it's kind of hard from them. People can't see kind of your ambitions and your goals and your values. So maybe I was too vocal with it. So maybe one piece of advice, just keep your goals to yourself and just knock them out of the park. But
well, Derek, you're certainly doing that, right? You put your mind to it. You had a breakout year, your first year, that a lot of seasoned agents don't have that much production, right? And you did it year one. You're continuing your success in year three, year two, and now you're coming into year three. Derek, this has been amazing. Before we jump off, right? What would you say is one of the biggest challenges that new agents are going to face?
One of the biggest challenges that new agents are going to face is that other agents are going to treat you with the respect that you're going to. I'm just going to keep it real. Other agents, not myself, but just kind of other agents aren't really going to give you the time of day or the respect or the guidance that you want unless they're getting some sort of compensation for it. And I would go interview as many brokerages as possible and find what you're comfortable with. And definitely don't be afraid to become a solo business owner, independent agent. I definitely, nothing, not to knock the team model. It's just that, you're working for someone else. Isn't the whole point to get into this business is to work for yourself? So I want to help encourage people, become your own business owner, run things how you want to. There's multiple ways to do this business. Just practice this business with as much ethics as possible. So it's really important. You are licensed, your license depends on it. And to just, never give up. And if you really want it, it doesn't matter how long it's going to take. You could, if you put your head down and you work hard towards it, you will accomplish your goals in real estate. 1,000%. Yeah, absolutely.
Derek, this has been a pleasure. If someone's watching this right now, how can they stay in touch with you?
They could find my Instagram, Derek Tschilar, so they can do that, or they can go on my website, phoenixareahousesearch.com.
Fantastic.
phoenixareahousesearch.com.
Derek, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Take it easy, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission. We hope today's stories and insights inspired you to take that next step in your real estate journey. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode, or head over to our channel to see some of the other content we've produced. We'd also love to hear from you. Drop a comment below with your biggest takeaway or a question for our next guest. If you have a recommendation for someone we should interview, please send a note to unlockingrealestate@colibrirealestate.com.